What's wrong with being an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times? What do you think, Max?
Do you want to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times?
Yeah, I think I'd like to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times.
Then grab it! Grab it!
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to episode 112 of Modern Technology Watches.
That is such a lovely number.
It really is. This is our 12th episode
Hoo-ha.
of our inaugural season of this podcast in which I, Rob Vincent,
And I, Gila Drazen,
show one another movies that we love from our combined collection. For the most part. Sometimes we do other stuff.
but for the most part, it's stuff from this massive shelf of DVDs we have over here.
Yes. And this is my pick.
It is your pick.
It is my turn to pick a film.
It is
for us
Rob's
to
turn
watch.
to pick a film.
And so I'm going to take this headset off and go do that.
Okay, so I'm just going to keep talking while I look away from the shelf, because if I
You don't
look
need to
too,
look away.
Well, but if I look too closely at the shelf, I have a sense of what you're going for. So I'm going to look over here and pretend I have... well, actually, I'm not pretending. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, he's back.
Hi, it's me again.
The cans are back on.
Yes, and so is my headset.
Okay.
And I have this for you.
Oh, this is exciting. Okay, so he has handed me Network, which I've never actually seen, but have always wanted to.
On Blu-ray. Yet.
On Blu-ray, no less, I know. Ooh. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't reach you.
Oh, in that case, just read the back of the disc sleeve there for us.
Okay. Newscaster Howard Beale has a message for those who package reports of cute puppies, movie premieres, and fender benders as hard news. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Sidney Lumet directs Paddy Chayefsky's Satire, an Academy Award-winning screenplay about the things people do for love and ratings. 3 performers won Oscars. Best Actress Faye Dunaway is the TV exec guarding ratings like a tigress protecting cubs. Best Actor Peter Finch is Beale, whose airwave rants become a phenomenon. And William Holden, Robert Duvall, and Best Supporting Actress Beatrice Straight add to the fierce vitality. Who the F is Beatrice Straight?
She'll be one of the ones who isn't Robert Duvall.
Thank you. Much appreciated. I'm very excited.
So you know the movie?
I know the movie. I mean, I know that it exists.
You've not seen the movie?
I've not seen the movie. And unfortunately, we couldn't go see it when they did it on Broadway.
Right, we missed that. But while we're going in fresh, what do you know about the movie?
I know I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Good.
And that's about it.
Okay, yeah. That's the big meme that came out of it.
Mm-hmm. And, I know the names because I play Academy Award winner quizzes sometimes. So, Faye Dunaway, Peter Finch. Beatrice Straight is one I never got before, so It's an extra edition. Well, I think this is going to be great.
I'm excited for you to see this. This is another one of the ones, it has some stuff in common with the other films that I might show you because I just want to let you in on a little more of what the inside of my head is like. Mm-hmm. I think this is one of those. So I'm excited for you to see this, whether or not you end up liking it.
I'm also excited to see it, whether or not I end up liking it. And this is definitely, I know it's something that means a lot to you, so I'm excited we're going to get to see it together.
Also, it's something that we haven't done with too many episodes on this, which is movies that are part of the canon, as these things go.
That is true.
Among, people who are really into film. I think we did Some Like It Hot.
We did Some Like It Hot. Are you suggesting that Josie and the Pussycats is not canon?
Canon is subjective. I mean, I come from sci-fi fandom and, fan fiction and stuff. So, yeah, canon is subjective.
Are you suggesting that Without Warning?
Oh, no, that's canonical. Absolutely. All right, let's get to it, shall we?
Yes. 1976's Network.
Hey, Gila.
Hey, Rob.
Are we back?
I think we're back.
Excellent.
Hey.
So,
yes,
You have seen Network.
I have seen Network. I enjoyed Network.
You enjoyed it.
I did.
I'm so happy.
I did. I unreservedly enjoyed it. There are things that are fascinating and I can't wait to talk to you about. But I really liked it.
Yeah, you seemed pleased at the end of this. Sometimes at the end of these movies, before we start recording again, one of us will turn to the other with sort of a WTF type expression. But you seem to be digging this.
I really was.
I was enjoying watching you dig this.
Oh, thank you. I love that feeling, of when I show you a movie and you like unreservedly enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And then there are also times when you don't, and I'm trying to figure out like where the moment was and you decided you weren't enjoying yourself.
So where was the moment in this when you decided you were enjoying yourself?
Like the beginning, I really liked it. I really, really liked it. It's interesting thinking back. I mean, this movie is over 40 years old.
Mm-hmm. About 43 now.
Yeah. And thinking about what then was merely speculative, what has now come to pass, what was intended to be satiric, mm-hmm. is pretty commonplace now. But also the things that are similar to the way they were then and things that are radically different to the way they were then, mm-hmm. and things that we know about people who were in the cast that we don't know, or that we didn't know then, or that people didn't know then because I wasn't alive. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's stuff we'll all get to in the shakeout, but thank you for this one. I really liked it.
Brilliant. As I said earlier, it's one of my favorites. Like, it might be one of my favorite movies of any kind, full stop. It is just such a piece of storytelling and performance. I think pretty much everybody in this movie kills it.
Yeah.
In a good way.
I mean, these are incredible performances. I can only imagine that had the Screen Actors Guild Awards existed then as they do now, that this movie would have been nominated for Best Cast in a Film.
Yeah, it was, just everybody involved. The cast, the director, Sidney Lumet, Patty Chayefsky, the screenwriter, mm-hmm. Just every piece of this was a puzzle piece that fit perfectly together.
Also, just talking about our seeing it now, or my seeing it now, really, because we watched Fosse Verdon when it was on. And Patty Chayefsky was a character in Fosse Verdon. Mm-hmm. And they talk about Network.
Yeah.
So having that experience also was it was really good. Thank you. I know I keep saying that, but thank you.
Man, I don't think you've been this jazzed about a movie I've shown you so far. But
well, hang on. No?
I mean, at least for this project.
Well, no, I'm going back in my head. Okay, so there was Lifeboat. Mm-hmm. I didn't hate Lifeboat. Mm-hmm. Then we did The Goonies. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. And then The Warriors. And then...
Are we doing like a year in review thing?
Blade Runner. No, I'm thinking about the movies you've picked for the podcast. No, you're right. I have not been this jazzed about any of the movies that you have picked for the podcast. You have also not been that jazzed about most of the movies I've picked for the podcast, so...
Well, this isn't all about getting each other jazzed, but, yeah.
Sometimes it really works out, which is great.
It is. We have the windows wide open right now, so I just want to apologize to listeners for apparently every single airplane that's flying over Queens at this point in time. It seems like there's some kind of traffic jam up there, and they're just all hanging around.
Or, we just live fairly near two really big airports.
That's true. But I think usually the airplanes aren't this invasive.
Sometimes. I think it depends. But yes.
Okay.
Anywho.
So, yeah, this movie, I am pretty sure, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure the first time I saw it was maybe on network television, edited for content. And I was too young to understand what was going on, but it was just sort of on. I don't know if someone else in the house was watching it, but I remember having seen bits of it, not really understanding it when I was probably very young. And later on, I saw it again on cable, I think, and I must have been in my teens, and it blew my mind. It was one that I remember getting out often from, we used to get VHS movies out of the library, and they had it, and I got it out of there. Pretty sure we rented it once or twice. But this is one of those movies that, like, whenever there's a format shift, it's one of the ones that I have to eventually get. You know, I had it on VHS, I had it on DVD, now it's the Blu-ray. And yeah, it just, this is a movie that belongs in my collection, whatever form that collection takes.
I get it. I totally get it. And I can imagine having seen this as a kid and not, necessarily grokking the satire.
Mm-hmm.
And I also completely understand that feeling of going from seeing something edited for TV to seeing it uncut for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine, knowing this movie, like, I can only imagine how much they must have had to cut. I mean, it must have been like a half hour long on regular television. But you were aware of the Mad as Hell meme?
Yes.
And that's what most people are aware of. It's referenced in approximately every other movie that came after. But with good reason. This is one of those things that becomes a meme because it's actually something really special.
And, I mean, it also, is a meme in the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the memeing of the meme is, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. The general population, I think, wasn't really thinking of memes as they do now. But even so, like, this was way ahead of its time in that, like, it created this meme and then examined it in the film's world as an existing meme that was then played out to hell. Like,
yeah, I mean, in 1976, would anyone have known meme except for, like, sociologists? Did the term even exist sociologically then?
Yeah, I think it might have been. I think Dawkins takes credit for it.
Okay.
But he has quite a lot to answer for anyway.
Doesn't he just? But Kennedy Davenport notwithstanding, I think that she said something on All Stars 3 about, they're going to meme you. Meme you to death.
Right.
And someone said, do you mean meme? You trying to say meme?
Yeah, I remember someone asking me if have you seen this meme, pronouncing it like a French word.
Or it's also a Hebrew letter.
Meme?
Mem.
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 Mem. Tips hat.
Yeah.
Lady.
Milady. So, yeah. I knew Mad as Hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew Faye Dunaway was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew Peter Finch died between the release of the movie and the Oscars that year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it.
Yeah. And Oscars, that's something to mention because this film, it was, let's see, got the wiki article here open. It won 3 of the 4 acting awards. Only one other film, A Streetcar Named Desire in 1951, is won in 3 acting categories. This won Best Actor for Peter Finch, Best Actress for Faye Dunaway, Best Supporting Actress for Beatrice Straight, who we'll talk about,
mm-hmm.
and Best Original Screenplay by Patty Chayefsky.
Was anyone nominated for Best Supporting Actor?
Yes, nominated... William Holden was nominated for Best Actor. Ned Beatty was nominated for Best Supporting.
Okay.
Also, Owen Wiseman for Best Cinematography, Alan Haim for Best Film Editing, Sidney Lumet for Best Director, and Howard Gottfried Best Picture. It also won Golden Globes. It won Best Actor for Peter Finch, Best Actress in a Motion Picture for Faye Dunaway, Best Director for Sidney Lumet, and Best Screenplay for Chayefsky.
I did read somewhere that Sidney Lumet was upset that they lost Best Picture to Rocky.
Yeah. And that's another thing about this movie. Like, you go back and watch Rocky now, and you can see why they liked it then, but it doesn't quite hold up.
Well, I think that's kind of emblematic of a lot of the decision-making that's gone into the Best Picture Oscar over the years, and God knows I could talk a lot about that, and I'm sure I will at some point. So many times it's about who runs the best campaign, or, I mean, let's talk about 2005.
What happened in 2005?
Crash won for Best Picture over Brokeback Mountain. We could talk about 1998. We could talk about 1994. And, of course, there are other questions when you talk about 1998. when Shakespeare in Love won over Saving Private Ryan, among other things. We're so in the weeds right now.
Well, this is something that you are much more of a nerd about than I am.
Yeah.
But it's funny because our pals Kyle and Emmanuel, who I do the show Off the Hook with, and so do you now.
Yeah.
And they also have this other show they do, Off the Wall. They do that out of Stony Brook every week. One of the projects they've been doing is watching every Best Picture like, in order.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting hearing them talk about, these things with modern eyes and sensibilities.
It's true. But even when you talk about the contemporary moment, like The Greatest Show on Earth, which is not a good movie. Mm-hmm. It is crap. And people knew at the time that it was crap. But it won for Best Picture.
Right.
But, again, going back to like 1998, when there are so many questions on it. Did people vote for Shakespeare in Love because Saving Private Ryan was gory? Did they vote against Saving Private Ryan? Or was it Harvey Weinstein and the Miramax marketing machine? And then knowing what we know now about Harvey Weinstein, I mean, there's just so many avenues this could go.
Yeah.
And we don't need to do that.
But Network. Holds up.
Yes.
Holds way the hell up.
Holds way the hell up. Okay, if you are a listener of ours and you are a sentient human being in 1976 and remember how this came out, how people reacted to it at the beginning, let us know. I am very curious.
Yeah, I want to know more about how this was received back then. I mean, Pauline Kael hated it apparently, but, Pauline Kael hated everything. She was like Mikey.
Well observed, dear.
70s. The critical reception, it opened to acclaim from critics, according to Wikipedia, and became one of the big hits of 1976 to 77. Vincent Canby of the New York Times liked it. Ebert liked it. Gene Siskel liked it. Seen a quarter century later, Ebert added the film to his great movies list and said the film was like prophecy. When Chayefsky created Howard Beale, could he have imagined Jerry Springer, Howard Stern, and the World Wrestling Federation? He credits Lumet and Chayefsky for knowing just when to pull out all the stops. But yeah, Pauline Kael, subtitle to review, Hot Air. Michael Billington didn't like it.
Who's Michael Billington?
An English critic.
Okay. Yeah, with a name like Michael Billington, I probably should have guessed.
It has a 92% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Rightfully deserved.
Right.
It was so fascinating seeing it because, again, it was supposed to be, it was satire, right? And this idea of an entertainment producer taking over the news, not too far from where we are now.
Yeah. The whole shift to news as entertainment. It's, this movie predicted things and did things that were outlandish at the time that today just seem pedestrian.
Yeah.
We can get into it. Of course, as always on this program, if you haven't seen Network, first of all, see Network. Second of all, see Network before you listen to us break down the whole thing. Yes, this is a movie that you should see. Whoever you are, whatever you think of movies, experience this one.
I can say this as someone who hadn't seen it till recently. You should see it. And looking at it as, I don't want to say a prophecy of the world we live in now, but almost a prophecy of the world we live in now. But we'll come back to that.
Yeah. Let's give the cast a quick hit. There's a whole lot of cast on this wiki article. I think we'll just keep to the top ones here. Let's start with Beatrice Straight as Louise Schumacher.
One scene.
2 scenes.
I'm sorry, 2 scenes.
Yeah. One scene where she wakes her husband up and another scene which is her scene. But she won Best Supporting Actress for... She holds the record, I think, still for shortest screen time in a Best Supporting Actor role.
I think it may be a toss-up now between her and Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love, coincidentally. But yeah.
Maybe.
Judi Dench, Judi Dench is in one scene in Shakespeare in Love. It's a long scene, but she's in it, one scene. Yeah, I think Beatrice Straight might have the least screen time for a Best Supporting Actress winner.
But yeah, I think she earned it. What she was doing hit for me. It felt real.
Yeah.
You know, she sold it. Ned Beatty as Arthur Jensen, the apparently amiable head of the company that owns UBS, the broadcaster.
I loved that bit in the boardroom. Loved it.
And Ned Beatty too, like, he's one of those guys, he never really got as much acclaim as I think he deserved. He is 82 years old now.
Really?
Yeah, I think he always seemed old. When he was young, he looked old. But yeah, I mean, you might know him if you've watched a lot of like 80s, 90s movies. He was usually kind of the gag role, comic relief, the kind of goofy guy. He's not the goofy guy in this. He's absolutely like straight up menacing, and it works. Let's go Robert Duvall as Frank Hackett.
Robert Duvall as Frank Hackett. I have rarely wanted to punch someone in a movie quite as much as I wanted to punch Robert Duvall in this movie.
Yeah. And that speaks to his performance.
Doesn't it just?
Because he definitely is supposed to be that guy that you really want to punch. And he's got this perfectly punchable face during the whole thing. And just, again, like, brilliant casting.
Like, I like our TV set. I wanted to put my fist through it.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's the guy who's running the TV station and, you know, kind of in the middle of all these machinations behind the scenes. There's that thing where a villain, like someone playing the villain role knows they're playing the villain role and plays them as a villain, and it gets cartoony. But like the best way to do a villain usually is to play them as though they're damn sure what they're doing is the right thing.
I did have a question for you.
Yes.
You are a person who has worn men's dress clothes more than I.
I think so, yes.
If you get a roughly front tuxedo shirt, does it normally have, like, regular shirt cuffs?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was, like, distracted by his cuffs.
His cuffs distracted you.
They were floaty. They were roughly and floaty. And I was like, what is happening here?
I think some of that can just be put down to it was the 70s.
So true.
That's one thing that this movie has is a lot of even the 70s fashion, like a lot of it wasn't so 70s that it's kind of ridiculous looking. It still seems a little bit more timeless than a lot of 70s movies where people are dressed super 70s-ish. I think because these are mostly corporate people and news people who are always, I think, 99% of the time they're in sort of neutral suits.
They're neutral, like, three-piece suits. For the men are mostly in neutral three-piece suits.
Yeah.
The women and the dress-up clothes, though?
Yeah.
Oh, come now, Pish Posh.
This is true.
I was like, oh, Robert Duvall is just wearing a 70s tuxedo. Like, no matter when this movie had been made, I would be like, oh, that's a 70s tuxedo.
That was a 70s tuxedo. I'll give you that. Let's go to Peter Finch as Howard Beale.
Yes.
Who seems in some way like the main character, but in other ways he's kind of just like a plot device. And everything else is going on around him. Like,
yeah. I mean, he is the linchpin around which the story turns, but he's by no means the main character.
Nope.
And I can't help but wondering if now he could have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor rather than Best Actor. Like, that's a way that everybody could have won.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the same way that, like, the performance that everyone and I'm sorry, I know you don't like this movie, but the performance that everyone remembers from The Dark Knight is Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Right.
Who, again, is kind of the one who makes the plot turn, isn't the main character, has the showiest part. Like, yeah, Howard Beale is on screen a hell of a lot less than everybody. And, yeah, I mean, but also knowing that Peter Finch had a heart condition and was going to be dead less than a year after this movie was finished.
Right.
You know, every time he fainted, I was just like, oh no.
Yeah, that's something that does color watching him in this movie. I mean, for those unfamiliar, he made this movie in 1976, made a TV movie called Raid on
Entebbe,
in which he played Yitzhak Rabin, and then after Entebbe finished shooting, he was on a promo tour for Network, which had come out. This is from Peter Finch's Wikipedia page. On the 13th of January 1977, he appeared on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. The day after, he had a heart attack in the lobby of the Beverly Hills Hotel and died at the age of 60. So...
Wait, he was only 60?
Yep, he was only 60 years old. And so, like, the movie had come out, and people knew how brilliant it was, but... Like, the Oscars weren't, of course, until later, and so he died before he got his Oscar. Yeah. So it was accepted posthumously by his wife. But yeah, knowing that he died of a heart attack and knowing what this movie put him through. Mm-hmm. I mean, not only in the fainting bits, but just in the sheer madness and energy that he had to throw into the role of Beale.
So I read something that they did 2 takes of the big "I'm mad as hell" scene, and Sidney Lumet just instinctively knew not to ask him to do it again because he's already pushing too hard.
Right.
So that scene, the scene that appears in the movie, is like half from the first take and half from the second. But he wouldn't ask him to do it again.
Right.
Which is good because could you even imagine?
Yeah, but what a scene!
Oh, seriously.
I've seen this movie more times than I can count, and I still get chills every time. And while it was going on, I was watching with you, and you've spoken to me about having to try and tuck back the urge to quote lines along with the film while you're watching with me. Yeah. Yeah, I may have drawn blood on the side of my mouth, biting my lip.
You never need to tuck it back that hard. Really, it's okay.
I wanted you to experience it.
Well, I appreciate that, but seriously, don't injure yourself on my behalf.
But no, it is one of the great character monologues, and I can't imagine anyone else doing it like Peter Finch did. Mm-mm. What an actor. Yeah. William Holden as Max Schumacher.
William Holden.
Playing the jaded old newsman who's Howard Beale's best friend, and going through his own shit. Mm-hmm.
William Holden, even at this point, dreamy.
Yeah.
Oh. I will admit, my frame of reference for William Holden is narrow, but in the movie Mona Lisa Smile, which admittedly is not good, it's not good. But it develops that Julia Roberts' character apparently had a relationship with William Holden, and all the girls freak out.
I haven't seen it.
Don't plan on showing it to you, just for the record. At least not for the podcast.
But he was definitely an older dude in this, and there's the older trope because he has a thing with Faye Dunaway, who we'll talk about. But there's the old trope of the grizzled old guy gets with a woman far younger than him, often unbelievable. Now in this movie, yes, he is dreamy. He is objectively dreamy.
He is objectively dreamy.
He is William Holden, but he's also
he's William Holden, and he's saying words by Paddy Chayefsky, and just.
And Max Schumacher can get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also he really sells his character. He really seems like that guy.
Mm-hmm. No, very much. And this whole idea of watching the world in which you've spent your life changing under you. You could see it. He was selling it. He really was.
He was watching his world unravel under him, and he was also watching his best friend, who who he kept saying, he needs therapy and treatment. He doesn't need all this. But, like, he watches the TV station run away with just exploiting his madness.
Mm-hmm.
And just watching him spiral like that. And it's in his eyes when he's watching Beale do his thing. Like, you know what he's going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dreamy, but also just a really good actor.
Mm-hmm.
Which you don't often get in the same package.
Not really. But that was very often William Holden. He was a hell of an actor.
Mm.
And finally, Faye Dunaway as Diana Christensen. Now, the face you're making doesn't work on audio, really. But so, what do you think of Faye Dunaway?
I think that Faye Dunaway did not have to reach as hard to play Joan Crawford as one might think. That fair?
Well, so talk about what you mean by this.
So I have heard that Faye Dunaway is not pleasant. I've heard that Faye Dunaway is not a pleasant human being to work with. I have heard that, basically that she's what my college roommate would call a not nice. And because of it, knowing that definitely colored my my understanding of Diana.
Okay.
Having that knowledge really colored the lens through which I interpreted seeing Diana.
Mm-hmm.
But also having had space to sit with it, it's the things that I found interesting about Diana were what was on the page, not necessarily what was on the screen.
Yeah.
I really found her unpleasant. Also, Faye Dunaway's eyebrows were just super distracting.
Well, they always are. That's one of her features.
I mean, they were just like so thin.
Mm.
And I say this as a woman who has, strong eyebrows, I think. They were just like severely over-penciled and perhaps drawn on.
Yeah. How much could we put that down to the 70s, and how much is just Faye Dunaway's energy she projects?
¿Por qué no los dos?
Sure.
And
Faye Dunaway.
Faye Dunaway. And there are more specific things about her character that we'll get to later in the plot summary.
Yeah. So, shall we go into the plot?
Let's do it.
All right. The plot section from the Wikipedia article for Network 1976 film. Howard Beale, the longtime anchor of the Union Broadcasting System's UBS Evening News, learns from friend and news division president Max Schumacher that he has just 2 more weeks on the air because of declining ratings. The two get drunk and lament the state of their industry.
Does it happen to say what the numbers were listed at that point?
It doesn't say in the wiki article here, but also, like, one thing that's definitely of the time is talking about shows getting like only a 22 share,
right,
and things like that. Like in the days when there were like 3 main networks and maybe half a dozen channels that you could watch in your local area over broadcast television, audience shares were a much different scale than they are now with hundreds of channels and
yeah, because I was like, the numbers that Howard slid to at the end, people would literally murder to have those numbers now.
Yes, yeah, exactly. If you know anything about television ratings, or if you do a deep dive into this stuff, and take a look at just what counted as bad ratings in the 70s, that nowadays a network executive would like sell his own mom to a pet shop for.
That's a very specific image.
Yeah. But also, when the movie starts, and you see a bunch of TV screens all showing different things, and one of them showing Howard Beale on the news, and it focuses in on him, and you hear the narrator, who you hear through this whole thing. The narrator was an actor called Lee Richardson, who frequently appeared in the films of Sidney Lumet. The narrator, with that stern, sort of neutral television narrating voice that anyone in the 70s would be familiar with, narrates the story as it goes along in this film, and it's a really, the device works well.
I also enjoyed at the beginning when they had that split 4 screen, and Walter Cronkite was in one corner and Harry Reasoner was in one corner.
Yeah,
it was very much this is who this guy is. These are his peers.
Mm-hmm.
This is the footing on which he finds himself.
Right. And anyone of the time would have definitely, recognized on sight Harry Reasoner, Walter Cronkite, and the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you see later when they show the UBS building, like first they show in actual New York the NBC building, the CBS building, the ABC building, and then the UBS building. So it very swiftly gets the point across that, like, okay, it's another one of those, because UBS is, of course, fictional.
And, of course, you know where the actual physical building they used for the UBS building was.
Which building?
It was in Washington. I don't even know what building it was, but it was not in New York. It was in Washington.
Yeah. That's another thing about this movie is, like, there are so many movies that I love that are, like, New York 70s movies. Stuff like The Warriors and, other things that were filmed in New York in the 70s, and New York is almost a character.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this one so much.
No.
Just New York City is good for, like, just a fictional setting and some establishing shots, but doesn't really have much to do with anything beyond that.
Exactly.
The following night, Beale announces on live television that he will commit suicide on next Tuesday's broadcast. UBS fires him after this incident, but Schumacher intervenes so that Beale can have a dignified farewell. Beale promises that he will apologize for his outburst, but once on the air, he launches back into a rant claiming that life is, quote, bullshit. Now, the suicide live on the air thing, there was a newscaster called Christine Chubbuck who...
Did,
yeah. It was in 1974 that she did that.
Mm-hmm.
She was a newscaster in Florida who killed herself live on the air.
And that footage has been locked down so thoroughly.
Right.
We were at the Museum of the Moving Image last week,
mm-hmm.
and there's a film about a film. It's called Kate Plays Christine, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it focuses on this woman who's trying to play Christine Chubbuck in a film. I still want to see it.
Yeah. But yeah, that was something that had really happened, and so that was in the public consciousness at the time. Chayefsky has since said that he said in different sources quote him as saying that he was inspired by Chubbuck and that he wasn't, and it just happened to happen after he'd already written that bit. So, like, it's unclear.
Okay. I mean, I thought it was pretty much canon that it was inspired by her, but...
You would think.
I would, yes.
But even if he didn't intend it from the beginning, like, there's no separating
in the public imagination.
Right. Beale's outburst causes the newscast ratings to spike, and much to Schumacher's dismay, the upper echelons of UBS decide to exploit Beale's antics rather than pull him off the air. This is really interesting to watch because you see them talking about how the news division is constantly losing money, and that was generally accepted as the price of doing business. Yes, exactly. But if you're going to have a television station, you need to have news,
exactly.
And your news will cost money, but it will be subsidized by the rest of what's going on.
And it will be money well spent, but apparently UBS is just failing at being a news network.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if I can go back here for a second,
mm-hmm.
The consonants that a lot of people were saying when Fox came up,
mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden was the fourth network.
Right.
And Fox, as a network, did not have a news department.
Nope.
Fox did not have a national newscast. And, yeah, it's just, there was no news. You had local, but there was nothing coming out of national.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the programming that UBS was doing kind of leaned toward the more salacious and sensational,
mm-hmm.
which is also something you could say about the Fox channel.
Yeah, definitely.
What were their first breakout shows? The Simpsons and Married with Children.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people really saw a parallel in the establishment of Fox as a channel
mm-hmm.
and a network in the story of EBS in network, which I just thought was very interesting.
It was. For those unfamiliar with American network television history, yeah. In real life, there were three big networks. In this movie, UBS is the fourth and is portrayed as the fourth that is losing money all around and that is just trying to grab at more and more sensationalized and over-the-top stuff in order to stay in the running. And, in the 80s, Fox came along and basically did that, but without the news bit.
Yeah, but they did it for a long time, too. I mean, when you think about Fox's reality programming slate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything, I don't want to say everything gross started on Fox, but everything gross started on Fox.
They definitely moved the needles. I mean, they were really selling themselves as like, we're the scrappy upstarts. We're not those stodgy old other three networks. So, basically the punk shit is happening here.
Yeah.
They had The Simpsons. They had Tracy Ullman. They had Married with Children was the big one.
And then they had 90210.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, we're going to have soap operas for kids.
basically, yeah. But also, and again, I'm thinking about the reality stuff because that was, there was a harbinger of that in a lot of what happened in network.
Mm-hmm.
And reality shows on Fox, like The Swan was on Fox. Joe Millionaire was on Fox.
Yeah, was Cops a Fox thing?
Yeah.
Cops was a Fox
Cops
thing.
Cops is a Fox thing.
Yeah, and still is.
The Who Wants to Marry a Multimillionaire thing, or just a millionaire, I don't remember. That was on Fox. The Average Joe and Mr. Personality and just every crappy, sharky, parasitic reality show either began on Fox or its analog on Fox was worse. I have a lot of feelings.
Legit. So you were a big fan of these, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, have you not seen my online petition to bring back The Swan? Sorry.
Listeners, you can't hear the side eye she's giving me, but I assure you it's there.
Which is also amazing because I'm sitting directly across from you.
Mm-hmm. You make the angles work.
I'm sorry, you remember The Swan, right?
Explain The Swan for those unfamiliar.
God. The Swan pitted two women against each other each week. And each of these women was like, hi, I'm ugly. Please fix me. So they would. And they would take these women, and I hope you heard the air quotes around fix. They would take these women and perform extensive plastic surgery on them and then stick them in a house with no mirrors and no reflective surfaces at all. And they would work with a trainer and like have all their meals made for them. And then they would have this like reveal ceremony and they would put on this like, they would, be given this really hideous dress and they would get their hair done. They wouldn't be able to look at that either. And then they would like have this ceremony and they'd walk out in front of like a mirror and see themselves for the first time. And invariably, each of these women had like a boob job and like cheek implants and a nose job and big fake hair extensions. And they would all they all did the exact same thing, which was they'd put their hands on their face, over their mouth, then they'd grab their tits, then they'd go back to their face, then they would cry, except the tears would be coming out from their ears. Oh my God. They were all Southern. Oh my God, I'm so beautiful. Oh my God, I can't even. And they all looked exactly the same. Anyway, that was this one. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot. Two women each week. And then the judges, who were like the host and the nutritionist and the trainer and the psychiatrist.
Oh, dear.
Would vote on who had the better transformation.
Oh,
there was a winner of this shit.
I can't say this was very, very heavily on my radar, though I had heard that it happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not about to go dig up the reruns.
So it's just like cheeks, mouth, tits, stomach, face, tits, mouth, face, and then some sort of combination of the above, and then they would start crying.
Knees and toes, knees and toes.
There were never any knees or toes. Oh my God, I'm so beautiful.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it was real special.
So, back in the 70s.
Back in the 70s. Before people were having plastic surgery competitively.
Yeah. So the upper echelons of UBS decide to exploit Beale's antics rather than pull him off the air. When Beale's ratings seem to have topped out, Diana Christensen, who heads the network's programming department, approaches Schumacher and offers to help him develop the news show. He says no to the professional offer, but she also makes a personal offer, and the two begin an affair.
Hashtag not all female television executives? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
It was skeevy, and I know it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was squicky. And there is a whole scene later during their affair when she just can't stop talking about programming.
Yeah. I'm aware that I was cracking up during all of that.
As was I.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also very funny because a lot of the things that Diana was doing in that section were very stereotypically male.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, things went pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, the to an extent, there is definitely the trope that was especially there in the 70s. It's still there today. But, like, if you're the woman who's the boss of people, then you're going to be basically the cold badass, for want of a better term, very, very butch, very cold, no-nonsense business lady who's basically a man but in a dress. Like, she's so good at this job, she's, like, manly. It's,
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, is not a good look. But
No, but I mean, that was very much...
it was very much the trope.
Yes.
And at one point she even says, like, I don't mean to be all butch boss lady here, but
Yeah.
but I'm going to, if you don't, whatever it was she was telling them to do, I'm going to fire all your asses.
If you don't, when the next time I give you a report, if you don't read it, I'm going to fire all of you.
Yeah.
Also, can we just take a moment and say the woman who was working for her
Yeah.
was Conchata Farrell.
Conchata Farrell.
Conchata
yes.
Farrell, who was a nurse on the comedy ER and the housekeeper on 2.5 Men.
Yeah, I missed both of those, but you can say that.
So I heard her voice and I was like, oh my God, it's Conchata Farrell.
Christensen, seeking just one hit show, cuts a deal with a band of terrorists called the Ecumenical Liberation Army for a new docudrama series called The Mao Zedong Hour.
And just the idea of when they're like, wait, are these the people who kidnapped Patty Hearst? No, wait, these are the people. And it's like trying to...
Yeah.
You can't tell your liberation armies one from the other without a scorecard.
Yeah, and the characters are arguing over this because they even have like a Patty Hearst-esque heiress that they've kidnapped who wears a beret and fires a machine gun around.
Yes.
But they point out in this movie that no, it's not those people. It's this completely fictional organization instead that just happens to be very similar.
But can we also talk about who played their heiress?
Talk about who played their heiress.
Okay, their heiress, whose name was Mary Ann something,
Yes.
was played by Kathy Cronkite, daughter to Walter, which I was very excited about finding out and tried to tell you I was very excited. And you were like, oh, I knew that. And I was so sad.
I'm sorry. Yes, Mary Ann Gifford
Yes.
was played by Kathy Cronkite.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that was a fun little thing. Mm-hmm. She was like a legit actress. It wasn't just like let's get a real newscaster's
No,
daughter.
absolutely. But just the fact that they were able to do that in much the same way as in the movie version of Chorus Line, which again, not great. I love it, but it's not great. Nicole Fossey plays one of the women on the Chorus Line.
Uh-huh.
Just, there's a fun piece of factoid for you.
But it is cool. Yes, and someone we didn't mention in the cast breakdown, Marlene Warfield as Laureen Hobbs. She was such a kick in this.
Absolutely. So I didn't know who Beatrice Straight was, so I just assumed that she was the one who played Laureen Hobbs. I was wrong.
But yes, the Mao Zedong Hour, where the idea is they have these terrorists because they get in a video of, or film rather, of a bank robbery that the Ecumenical Liberation Army has committed while filming themselves. So the idea is to take real films supplied by this terrorist organization and show them in the beginning of the show and then do a dramatization of the events, and that would be their show.
So it's kind of like Midrash in a weird way, and it's also kind of like Unsolved Mysteries, maybe?
Maybe.
Sort of like Cops meets Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
A weird combination of like documentary footage and reenactment.
And the thing is that they're paying the terrorists in order to keep supplying them these films. So they're basically paying the terrorists to go out there and keep doing crimes.
Right. deal maker for all of this is like what, the chair of the California Communist Party?
Something to that effect, yeah.
Rescue 911.
Oh, man.
It's Rescue 911.
It's Rescue 911.
With crimes.
and less Shatner, which is probably a good thing for everyone.
I don't know. There's an episode of Rescue 911 that absolutely scarred me for life to this day.
Which one?
The one where the kid is riding the down escalator and gets, I don't know, a shoelace, a pant leg, something caught in the bottom, and just kept smacking their head against the bottom because it wouldn't shut off.
Oh.
You want to know why I'm scared of down escalators? That's half the reason.
Oh, sweetie.
Yeah. The other half is a story that has nothing to do with William Shatner.
Well. So, when Schumacher decides to end Beale's Angry Man format, Christensen convinces her boss, Frank Hackett, to slot the evening news show under the entertainment programming division so she can develop it. Hackett agrees, bullying the UBS executives to consent and fire Schumacher. In one impassioned diatribe, Beale galvanizes the nation, persuading his viewers to shout out of their windows, "I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore."
And just the visual on that is he's been wandering around New York City in the rain.
Yeah, in pajamas with a
and
raincoat
overcoat.
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, today, okay, it's been raining all day today. And it's not been raining hard. But you and I have discussed this a lot. New York City is magical in the snow. It is disgusting in the rain. And the city does not drain well. So there's puddles everywhere. And what my dad used to call little volunteer lakes spring up all over the city. And if you're not standing in the right place, you will just get coated by cars that go by.
Yeah.
Tromping around New York City in the rain is no fun. Doing it all day long in your PJs and a raincoat. Ugh.
Especially when it's the gritty 1976 version of New York.
Exactly.
Which it was even grubbier than today's.
But still gross in the rain.
Yeah. And yeah, he was taken home by Schumacher, going, you're not going to be alone. You're sleeping at my place
Again.
And so you see Beale wake up in the middle of the night in his pajamas and start grumbling and talking to nobody, and then putting on the raincoat and just leaving. And there's this big thing, including Beatrice's first scene where she gets up and sees that their guest is no longer on the couch, and she wakes Max up to tell him Howard's gone.
I'll make you some coffee.
Yeah. And so you see the people at the TV station and everyone else wondering where Howard is. He's supposed to be on tonight, and Howard shows up at the last minute, walks in through the front lobby, is greeted by the security guard, just says, "I must make my witness."
He's beginning to get more. Is it more unhinged or less hinged?
Either can work, I
So
think.
he's getting a little bit less hinged, and it's taking on this sort of pseudo-religious affect.
Right. At first he was just like ranting about his situation and how he was sick of all the bullshit, and that struck a chord. And as he got more popular and as the station was enabling him, his rants just got further and further out the other side of wackadoo, to the point where he's basically just like preaching.
Absolutely. I mean, and they take away any pretense that that's not what it is. But the other thing is that as events progress, everything that had been standing in the way, anything that had been a voice of reason, is slowly taken away.
Yes.
So Max, who had been, who said, let's give him one more try, and then was going to cut him off, but no, let him say what he has to say.
The diatribe he gives, I mean, the mad as hell speech, it's a great fucking speech.
It is.
It's an awesome piece of screenwriting, and it just I still feel every word of it when I watch it. And I'm here now in the present day, but in New York City in 1976, that was the height of the malaise in this town. It was Ford to City drop dead, and the city was broke basically, and people were outright panicking. And so the things he's saying and the things he's articulating were what was going on at the time.
One thing that I think about is when he was on, the front page of the New York Post. It's a Post, the Daily News.
One or the other.
But it just said Beale fired, and there was no joke. There was no pun. And I don't know if that's a recent innovation or if it's always been like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but watching this movie as a New Yorker, just like having that connection to local history and seeing it in that context, it's one thing. I mean, if you see this movie and you're not a New Yorker, there's still a great deal to be had from this scene, but there's something extra that rings, I think, when you put it in that context.
And the image of everyone opening their windows and standing on their fire escapes and shouting.
Yeah, shouting into the darkness, and of course it's a lightning storm out, and the thunder is punctuating everyone screaming, and yeah, that scene still it gives me chills.
And it's something I've been thinking about the last couple of days because our apartment faces the alley. And I was thinking about it as I was, lighting Hanukkah candles in the window because the idea is you're supposed to light candles in the window so people can see. But we live against the alley.
But people can still see.
The people who live in the building that backs up to our building can see. It's not a lot of people, but if I'd stuck my head out the window and shouted, "I was mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore," not a lot of people would have heard.
Well, some would have. And that's the thing. And it's like when you're out at, from my experience, going out to protests and rallies and things centered around causes in which I believe or which I'm protesting against or whatever, what have you. I always thought, the obvious goal of something like that is to, get your feelings and your opinion out there in front of people. But I always felt very strongly that a goal of things like that nobody really talks about is getting out there and being able to shout what you're shouting alongside other people who feel as you do.
Absolutely.
And so if you're screaming out the window about how you're as mad as hell and you're not going to take it anymore, and you see other people across the alley, as was shown in this movie, people across the street, people across the alley, people on different floors of the same building, all out there shouting it with you, and it becomes this chorus of voices, there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah. It's true.
So yeah, the famous "I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore" speech. You should definitely see the entire movie, but that scene is also just one of the all-time great scenes, and I'm sure you can pull it up on YouTube or whatever. But there's so much more to the movie than it, but it's great. Feelings. Soon afterward, Beale is hosting a new program called The Howard Beale Show, top billed as the mad prophet of the airwaves.
It's so overtly religious.
Yes.
It's there's a stained glass window protected on the back. But there's also a cast of thousands.
Yeah, there's all these other people off to the sides doing all these other segments. Apparently on this program you never see them, but they're talked about and they're there, like Sybil the Soothsayer.
Sybil the Soothsayer.
The psychic.
The Vox Populi segment. I don't remember what the dude's name was with It's the Emma's Truth Department.
Yeah. And you explained to me why this is funny.
That is funny because the Hebrew word for truth is emet, or if you use it in a slightly more Ashkenazi pronunciation, say emes. And you say it's the emes. It's this is a very true thing. So it's the Emma's Truth Department it's just very, very funny.
I like that. I like that there are gags in this movie that I didn't get until I met you. So thanks.
Glad to help, dear.
It is very obviously now, it is not news. It is an entertainment program where he comes out and he rants and raves about something, and then he faints on stage. Whether he's doing it genuinely or whether it's part of the shtick, they never quite explain. But he always ends his rant or his commands to the audience by just flopping back onto the stage and in a faint.
Yeah, it's almost a bit like faith healery.
It's totally faith healery.
Almost when you're overcome by the spirit and then you just pass out.
And the way the audience is full of people of all ages and colors and everything, just enthusiastically applauding him and chanting with him, what are you? We're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, it's the studio announcer is
he's got a George Fenneman with him. It's great.
And everybody's, we're as mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore, which is just that moment of when something ceases to be a rallying cry and becomes commodified.
Exactly. That right there is is the thing. We were talking about this before of when something genuinely happens and it's meaningful, and then it becomes a meme and it's repackaged until like all meaning is drained from it. But people are chanting it happily.
You mean like every year they've tried to do the Women's March since 2016? 17, excuse me.
It's like that. And this movie was talking about that years before anyone ever got sick of Rick rolling. You know, no one has a cheeseburger yet in a photo of a cat. Whatever it is that is happening in the general sphere as a form of rebellion against consumerism, commercialism, the zeitgeist, what have you, is very quickly like the commercial world finds a way to repackage it and sell it back to the people. I mean, like pre-ripped jeans. You know, people started wearing out their jeans and not throwing them out when they had holes in them because they just figured, fuck it, like I'm still going to wear my jeans. You know, punks were tearing up their clothes as a sign of rebellion against authority. And next thing you know, you could go into the shops in the mall and buy jeans that were professionally ripped for you, and, you know, leather jackets with the spikes drilled into them already. And
I did go into a store a few years ago and say, I'm perfectly capable of distressing my own denim, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we don't have any non-distressed denim. And I was like,
that's distressing.
Why? You know, I want to have holes in my jeans that reflect my own wear pattern and aren't decided for me by the man.
Oh, man, the discussions I had when I ran a shop in the mall with the people who worked in the rest of the mall.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably fill a book with them.
I'm sure you could.
Anyway. But yes, the commercial world has always been very good at repackaging whatever is being put forth as the latest bit of rebellion against them.
But the Diana said she'd run into Sybil the soothsayer.
Mm-hmm.
Was she on Wall Street? Was that the thing about Sybil the soothsayer?
So I don't remember.
Like she was picking stocks or something, or she should have been picking stocks.
She should have been picking stocks, I think she says.
I was reading something on, I think, the IMDb page. There are apparently a bunch of people who identify themselves as like psychics or seers or whatever who have registered with the SEC. Although maybe that was just made up. I don't know. But it was on the IMDb page and I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, it is a fascinating thing. Ultimately, the show becomes the most highly rated program on television, and Beale finds a new celebrity preaching his angry message in front of a live studio audience that, on cue, chants Beale's signature catchphrase en masse, "We're as mad as hell and we're not going to take this anymore." At first, Max and Diana's romance withers as the show flourishes, but in the flush of high ratings, the two ultimately find their way back together, and Schumacher leaves his wife of over 25 years for Christensen.
Okay, talk about this particular scene.
This particular scene, well, Diana and Max start having a thing, and then there's this montage of them, like, walking around the streets and on dates and fumbling around in their hotel rooms and stuff, and the whole time he's saying nothing, and she's just talking about all the stuff that's going on at the station and, like, all the things she has to figure out, and, like, we're having trouble with this, but we're going to do this, and, like, all her conversation is just about the high-powered TV executive shit that she's doing.
But also, at this point, Max has been fired.
Mm-hmm. Max has been fired. He's left his wife.
Well, but beyond that,
mm-hmm.
Max has been fired. He's not working.
Mm-hmm.
She's working.
Yes.
So it's that role reversal.
Oh, yes.
Of when, you know, the little woman is at home and her husband comes home and all she wants to do is, like, have some human interaction, and he will not shut up about the work.
Yes.
That's all. That's all he knows how to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all she knows how to talk about. And there's this scene in the middle. The thing is, I thought that was all one scene. That they'd, like, gone away for the weekend or something.
I think it was an accelerated timeline, and it was more of a
whatever
montage.
it was. So, you know, they're at dinner,
mm-hmm.
and she's talking. And then they go back to the hotel, and she's talking, and they're taking off their clothes, and she's talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're in bed, and she's talking, and
mm-hmm.
she, like, hops on top of him, and she's talking, and then she, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's about 30 seconds. Accelerated timeline or no, that's pretty quick.
Yeah. and
but also classically male, and then she just kind of passes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's kind of left like, what just happened here?
Right.
But you're right. That role reversal is totally another like, look what this woman is doing thing. It's so manly.
Yeah. Not that it's necessarily a good thing, but we see this montage of them, and then a month has gone by. They're still together, and we see Max go talk to his wife. Louise? Was that her name?
Yes, her name was Louise.
All right.
I want to say Beatrice, but that's the actor.
That's the actor. I mean, she yelled.
She yelled.
And it's fascinating. And I think that was the moment when I turned to you and I said, don't ever, 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 ever.
Yeah, no. But,
ever.
No, and it's, the scene is, I mean, I can't help but laugh at it. But like he's really selling, and he's just coming out as this grizzled old frustrated guy who needs an outlet for whatever, and he finds it in Diana, and so he's come to his wife to like lay his cards out on the table and say this is happening, and he's just putting it out there like that, like this very matter of fact sort of this is where I am, and I.
Here's where I stand. Here's who I am.
Yes, exactly. Nice callback.
Thank you so much.
And she's just, as you might expect, pissed.
But it's also that thing of they've been married for 25 years. And
they've raised kids, like they just had a grandchild.
And she can hear the things that he's not saying and the things that he is trying to talk around. And it's also part of that, like, we've been married for such a long time, you can hear the things that I'm not saying. And he's like, I'm obsessed with her. I'm infatuated with her. She's like, just say it. Just say you're in love with her. And he says, fine, I'm in love with her. And then she starts screaming.
Yeah. And she asks him, does she love you? And he's like, I don't think she knows how to love.
Interesting foreshadowing.
Yes. And he's acknowledging through this whole thing, like, yeah, this is a thing, and I was hoping it was a brief thing, but it's sticking around, and like I don't know how long this is going to go on, but I'm gonna go with it. And so yeah, she earns her freaking Oscar in that scene.
Yeah, we should probably move out.
So he moves out of their apartment.
And in with Diana, as we find out later.
When Beale discovers that Communications Corporation of America, CCA, the conglomerate that owns UBS, will be bought out by an even larger Saudi Arabian conglomerate, he launches an on-screen tirade against the deal and urges viewers to pressure the White House to stop it.
I want the White House knee-deep in telegrams.
Yeah, telegrams. That's another thing that like will pull you right back to when this is happening. Yeah, he encourages telegrams. Today it would be emails, of course. Or
call the White House switchboard, because now nobody has to worry about long-distance calling.
Yeah. But that was also like very much in the 1970s in the public consciousness. That was the cliche, was that the foreigners who are going to come in and buy up everything, it was the Arabs, basically. And that, every hacky comedian had material about it, but it was also very much something that was in the public consciousness.
Well, in the moment when Howard is having this discussion about the Arabs trying to buy CCA is happening on the night of the affiliates conference.
Right.
So everybody's in a hotel ballroom, and Faye Dunaway is basically being feted as TV Jesus. And she's up in the front of the room doing like her best Ava Perón, and she's like, we're number one, and she's holding up both of her arms, and we were number 4, now we're number 1, and we have the number 1 show on TV.
Yeah, next year we're going to have the top 5, and then
and Robert Duvall is wearing his fluffy tuxedo with the fluffy cuffs.
Yes,
which distracted me.
A bit John Pertwee.
Ruffled cuffs. Yes, and you see this on a TV in the back of the ballroom. He gets a phone call. He has to leave the ballroom, or like the bar behind the ballroom, and he has to leave the ballroom. And he yells at the bar staff, like, "Can't you turn that down?" But they're all watching Howard Beale.
And he doesn't know anything special is going on, but like this happened 3 hours earlier in New York because they're in California now. And yeah, he gets the phone call about this this whole thing, and you don't hear the other side of the conversation, but you know that he's in trouble.
And then he goes on to talk about being in trouble. Mm-hmm. And how, this is a thing that's happening. And it was interesting because you could certainly, for the most part, you could write off a lot of what Howard was saying. Like, people were taking it very seriously, but, the adults in the room could write it off as, well, this isn't happening, this isn't true, this is whatever. I'm not drawing any parallels to anything that might be happening right now. Oh, pshaw. But we'll come back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So, and he's like, this is happening, and now it's broken, and I don't know how to fix it, and I'm going to lose my job. Mm-hmm. He's like, I've got everything right where I want it, and I'm going to lose my job.
Yes, but he's also, like, the other people from the network who were with him ask him, is it true about the Arabs? And he goes, yes, it's true.
Yeah, of course it's true.
Yeah. And of course, like every pop cultural racist cliche, it was wrong then, it's wrong now. We're not endorsing it, but that was a big thing at the time in the public sphere, in the public consciousness. Mm-hmm. This panics the top network brass because UBS's debt load has made the merger essential for its survival. Hackett takes Beale to meet with CCA chairman Arthur Jensen, who explains his own corporate cosmology to Beale, describing the interrelatedness of the participants in the international economy and the illusory nature of nationality distinctions.
Oh my God, this scene.
Yeah.
Let me take you in the boardroom. I think this is a more appropriate place to say what I have to say to you. Mm-hmm. And then he just, sits Howard down and goes old school preacher. Yes. There's no other way to put it.
And also, he sits Howard down at one of the end seats on this long corporate boardroom table mm-hmm. that you've seen with all these little green lamps along it, like the Rose Reading Room in the New York Public Library. And then he goes all the way to the other end, and then launches, like in Howard Beale mode, back at Howard Beale, about how he's tampering with forces he doesn't understand, and he must atone. And Beale is just stunned by this. He wasn't expecting this. He's shitting himself basically over what's being said to him about how there are no nations, democracy isn't a thing. It's just all the new nations are the corporations.
One thing that I found interesting was when he listed all these national corporations that mm-hmm. could be taken over by these outsiders.
Right.
Many of them don't exist anymore.
Right, or they have been so taken over. Mm-hmm. I mean, the big players at the time, IBM, AT&T, ITT, DuPont, mm-hmm. Exxon.
I think they mentioned Exxon and Mobil as two separate entities.
Yes, Exxon and Mobil. They were going to be friends later.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
But he rants and raves in full foaming at the mouth mode, and then shifts right back into nice corporate guy going, am I getting through to you here, Howard? It's just, do you understand what I mean here?
Yeah, it was this really epic example of, I'm going to try to speak to you in a language that you're going to understand. Mm-hmm. Ned Beatty said he did, 1 day of work on this movie?
Yeah, Ned Beatty did 1 day of work on this movie.
Nominated for an Oscar.
Uh-huh. And again, I think he freaking earned it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Beale is stunned, and he's just, reacting like he's talking to, he describes earlier that he's getting his stuff from, the voices that are talking to him.
Oh, because there had been that time when the phone rang. Mm-hmm. The phone rang, and somebody told him to speak to the people.
Right.
You're on. Why me? Because you're on television.
Mm-hmm. And so he's just talking about this voice, and then he describes this on the air later, and then Ned Beatty quotes that stuff back at him.
Were we to infer that it was Ned Beatty on the phone initially?
I think he was getting his stuff from, just voices, voices. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was Ned Beatty that was feeding it to him from the beginning. I think Ned Beatty latched onto what he was saying and tried to use that to further control him.
Okay, because when Ned Beatty quoted that conversation back to him, I just assumed that it had been Ned Beatty on the phone at the beginning.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, I that's not what I got from it, but I wouldn't say that's an invalid interpretation.
Because also it would be really interesting if he was the one who set all this in motion, especially because later, when Ned Beatty's character was so adamantly opposed to taking him off the air,
right,
despite his having mm-hmm. the ratings in free fall as they were.
Yeah, but I just took it as like Ned Beatty just like watched Howard Beale and decided that was the way he was going to communicate what he wanted to Beale.
And I just thought it was like, oh, it was him the whole time.
Yeah.
He put it in motion.
Interesting. But so
needing to get a foothold in the old guard of UBS, coming in as the guy who was the chair of the company that had bought this network.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way I'm going to get the foothold in the news department.
Yeah.
I'm spinning this out more as I'm talking through it.
That's interesting. Christensen's fanatical devotion to her job and emotional emptiness ultimately drive away Schumacher, who warns his former lover that she will self-destruct at the pace she is running with her career. You are television incarnate, Diana, he tells her, indifferent to suffering, insensitive to joy. All of life is reduced to the common rubble of banality.
That's an excellent phrase.
It is. It's a great turn of phrase. And that's when she kind of segfaults, like her brain locks up when she's trying to... You tell she kind of wants him back, but she's just like, I don't know how to love. I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to human.
Yeah, you were saying about Faye Dunaway, that kind of...
Yeah.
That kind of fits.
Yeah, whatever the show was that she was supposed to be doing recently, I don't even remember where, somewhere in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the entire crew quit because she was so abusive.
Yeah, and that's now 40-some-odd years later.
Yeah. I mean, that was this past summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, she is... I mean, Faye Dunaway, like, I hate talking about the personal interactions of celebrities as though they're on some kind of pedestal and, can't have a bad day once in a while. But, like, yeah, in general, I think it's safe to say she doesn't have a great reputation for being easy to work with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between bad day once in a while and consistently horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Jensen persuades Beale to abandon his populist message and preach his new evangel. However, ratings slide as audiences find his new sermons on the dehumanization of society depressing. Yet Jensen will not allow UBS to fire Beale.
So, everyone's sitting there and they're talking about this crisis of numbers for which people would lay down in traffic now.
Yeah. Yeah. And but also, like, Beale shifts from talking about, like, you've got to make your voices heard and all this and send telegrams to the White House to, like, well, that'll never happen again because it just doesn't matter anymore. And we're all basically, like, he launches into ineffectualism and just like, well, we're not going to change anything. And our children will never know, like, what things used to be like when you could actually affect the world around you and things are just going to happen. And
I had this experience. My senior year of high school, kids from my hometown went to this program called Panim El Panim, which is run by the Washington Institute for Values or whatever. It was a Jewish leadership program. And we spent 3 days and we were working on projects and we were lobbying and we were talking about how to affect change in our homes. And then the director of the program got up and he's like, I know you've been working really hard over the last couple of days, but don't forget, you're only one person and you're all teenagers, so there's really nothing you can do. And this is like the big rousing send-off speech.
wow.
And I was like, did that seriously just happen? I had a great time in Washington with the people I was with. We had a blast. The program sucked. But I can say that now. It was 20 years ago. It was more than 20 years ago. Did not have a good time on that experience.
Yeah. I used to subscribe to a magazine called Adbusters.
Yeah, so did my brother.
Yeah. And I loved it. I thought it was very insightful and very illuminating and great art and good ideas.
But
it's not one to binge. Like, I could only read a bit of it at a time, and couldn't go back and revisit the articles as much.
So like Rick and Morty.
Not like Rick and Morty, because like that's an entertaining sort of thing. Whereas like Adbusters was basically like, we're going to tell you how shitty everything is, and how shitty everything is, and how shitty everything is, and how shitty everything is.
And a little sidebar on how shitty everything is, yeah.
And we're going to use some clever artwork here, and some clever photo work, and some beautiful looking things to tell you how shitty everything is. And even for someone who was, at the time and still is, an activist, and someone who tries to get the word out about things, and like community organizing is a thing I do a lot, and stuff like that, there is only so much how shitty everything is I can take in one sitting, and it's not good for one's mental health. So like,
so true.
So, like, I ended up letting my subscription lapse, though I'll still pick it up once in a while. But, like, yeah, there's only so much of that anyone can take. And so when Howard Beale is going on and basically, like, what he was doing was, like, these rousing preaching frenzies that he would do turned into just, I'm going to tell you how shitty everything is, and there's nothing you can do about it. The audience wasn't so into that, and the ratings were slipping.
So they wanted to get him off the air.
But Jensen wouldn't let them.
Jensen wouldn't let them because it was his message going out.
Seeing it's two for the price of one value, solving the Beale problem plus sparking a boost in season opener ratings, Christensen, Hackett, and the other executives decide to hire the ELA to assassinate Beale on the air. Tell me about this. Like, being someone seeing this for the first time and not seeing that coming.
I mean, truth?
Yes.
I didn't see that coming. And I pride myself on knowing what the twists are.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never surprised by anything. There were parts of this movie that legitimately surprised me, and I wasn't expecting that. But also, this whole thing about that was Ned Beatty having that conversation with him. Like, I was convinced. This was like, oh no. Like, when I said that, I was like, wait a minute. Really? Because that's what I thought happened. I knew they were talking about it. I never thought they would go through with it. The kind of, like, fatalistic discussions that everybody has at their job. When I'm like, nope, I'm not going to give any real world examples. But
no, I don't think it would be good for either of us to do that. But yeah, we've all had
everybody's
those.
Workplace has those inappropriate things that you say to blow off steam. So when they're like, we should kill him, I'm like, okay, this is obviously like a lighthearted conversation among coworkers who are frustrated and know that they can't do the thing that needs to be done to fix the problem. But they're going to joke around about it. We've all been there.
But then they keep talking.
And then they keep talking.
And they keep talking.
And then they, like, make a concrete plan.
Yeah, and one of them off in the corner is like, I just want to be clear, like, we're all talking about a capital crime here. I hope there are no hidden recorders in your office. And
everyone laughs.
Everyone laughs. But yeah, they're serious about it. And the thing about this scene is, like, these are the television executives. You've seen them, like, going more and more batshit over the course of the movie. At the beginning, they're just taking someone with mental issues and like letting him blow off his steam on the air. But then they got the Mao Zedong Tower and they got all this stuff going on. And there's a great scene we didn't talk about when they're negotiating contracts with the terrorists.
There's just this room full of lawyers.
Yeah, and lawyers and executives in suits, and then the basically genericized Liberation Army, like guns and shit, and just in their jumpsuits and whatnot, and they're like getting into shouting matches over distribution deals and like, don't fuck with my distribution deal. And the executives end up like really trying to grab back this one point about this thing, and finally the terrorist leader's just like firing his gun into the air to shut everyone up.
Grand Ahmed Khan.
Yeah, something like that. And yeah, the great Ahmed Khan, played by Arthur Burkhart, and he's just like give her the distribution, and so that okay, moving on to the next section.
But it's also really like the fact that the leader, the chairman of the Communist Party, is like freaking out about distribution points.
Yeah. It's amazing, and you see the executives like kind of looking at each other like, how the fuck did we get here? But they keep doing it, and like that's who they are over the course of the movie. They're just going further and further out the other end of crazy, to the point where you can see how they got to this meeting, sitting in a boardroom, going, okay, we're gonna have to murder our star.
Yeah.
Fucking storytelling in this movie, man.
It's so well done.
It really is. The assassination succeeds, putting an end to the Howard Beale Show and kicking off a second season of the Mao Zedong Hour.
So the assassination happens, and then they go back. The closing shot of the movie is that same 4-screen that they did at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the thing I was waiting for, because they're showing like commercials in the other ones. So you see like the UBS feed, and it's showing like Howard smoking gun. The dude who was there, who's Snowden.
Yes, his name is Snowden.
So Snowden is there, and he's reporting what's happened. And in the other corners are commercials. So you see, like, Mikey Likes It, that actually happened there. But I kept waiting for, like, the other networks to break in and be like, Howard Beale was assassinated live on air. And they didn't. Like, it was just, I mean, I understand why, but... I was kind of waiting for the payoff on that.
Yeah, and the payoff was like it doesn't continue with the story after Beale is shot, because as it says here, as Beale lies bleeding on the set, a camera swings over the body in a crane shot. The tight depth of field of the final shot results in the camera apparently running over the corpse. We then cut to 4 television screens, 3 displaying news reports covering Beale's death, and the bottom left displaying a contemporary commercial. And yeah, Mikey likes it. The overlapping audio creates an unintelligible cacophony. Each news report plays out, 2 cutting to a different commercial, while the bottom left screen replays Beale's death in slow motion. The screens momentarily freeze, and a voiceover proclaims the film, "The story of Howard Beale, the first known instance of a man who was killed because he had lousy ratings." All of the screens fade to black, except for a still frame of the murder. The overlapping audio slowly resolves throughout the credits, finally ending in the sound effect of a single news teletype.
Which was the same the same sound effect that introduced network news with Howard Beale.
Yeah. The teletype noise, that was iconic for news programs in the 70s, even into the 80s. I remember them as a kid.
Right.
Like, that was the sound of news. I didn't know what the hell a teletype was, but I knew that that was the sound that meant the news was on.
Absolutely.
And it meant I could go back to my room and play with my toys, because TV was boring now. Everyone at the time recognized that as a news noise.
Yes. So, network.
And that was network.
And again, killed for lousy ratings.
Yes.
Plus could change. Could you even imagine? Mm-hmm. People here, and that's kind of why I said it that way. Now people would murder for those numbers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's not an option anymore.
Nope.
People have other stuff to watch, other stuff to do. This was before the internet, video games, anything else. It was just, you turn on the TV or you turn on the radio, and that was the world.
There is one thing, if we can go back to Diana and Max.
Sure.
For a minute. Thinking about it in a way of, again, I try not to impose too much of where we are in the current moment on these things that happened before. Mm-hmm. Not through the eyes of 2019, but I got eyes and it's 2019. Mm-hmm. And so thinking of younger woman, older man, she pursues him. Mm-hmm. And, often you'd have the older, more powerful man who would then continue to rise in his career, and this younger woman who wouldn't. Mm-hmm. And, the whole thing is subverted, but it's still hard to watch now.
Yeah.
Because what it says about sexual politics and consent and any number of other, appropriate boundaries in the workplace.
Yeah.
Fidelity.
Yeah. I think the thing that lets this movie still kind of squeak by with that, even with the times being what they are and everything, is the fact that the characters were pretty much digging their own graves with it. Like they were making their mistakes, and we were just along for the ride. But the woman was an asshole.
Yeah. And also, just the idea of the pickup line of, "Hey, a psychic told me we were going to have an affair."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Who goes for that?
It's never quite made clear in the movie whether or not she's actually genuinely into this psychic said thing, although she does end up giving the psychic a job on the Howard Beale show. Mm-hmm. Good old Sybil the Soothsayer.
Sybil the Soothsayer. I am the Soothsayer. I'm here to say the sooth.
Right. One thing I love about, there's a ton of trivia about this movie. Books have been written about the production of it. Mm-hmm. But just down in the casting section of this on Wikipedia, you talk about, for Howard Beale, who would eventually be played by Peter Finch, Patty Chayefsky envisioned Henry Fonda, Cary Grant, James Stewart, and Paul Newman in the role. Stewart didn't want to do it. Henry Fonda declined the role, finding it too hysterical for his taste. Stewart also found the script unsuitable, objecting to the strong language. Can you imagine Jimmy Stewart as Howard Beale in this?
No, I cannot.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm just not going to take it anymore.
So one thing that you and I talked about, speaking of Peter Finch, is he was Australian, right?
He was Australian, yeah.
So as Howard becomes more and more unhinged, less hinged, if you will.
Yes.
He stopped tamping back his accent so much.
Right. Right. When he was cast, he had to audition basically and prove that he could do the accent, and he did this apparently by studying, just watching tons and tons of American newscasters and re-recording himself doing what they were doing and listening back, and which is a great way to do an accent. But yeah, he pulls it off because like the way he speaks in the movie, it's definitely like you could put it down to being that forced mid-Atlantic thing that they definitely did at the time. They still do a little bit, but you see less of it now. But they definitely encouraged all newscasters to speak with this sort of middle American neutral accent where they don't seem like they're really from anywhere, so they could be from anywhere. And
yes, I understand that, given the fact that my native accent is that.
yeah. The Australian starts to come out, but like it doesn't take away from the film, I don't think, because it could just be him going more nuts and him sounding like he sounded like he could have been a bit Bostonian or a bit New Englandish or
a bit New Englandish, and also that thing that Americans tend to have where we listen to people with Commonwealth accents. We trust people with Commonwealth accents.
Yeah. So even as the accent drifts a little, it just becomes a bit more like assertive and authoritative. And when he's talking about, the news tells us today there were 53 homicides. Mm-hmm. And,
yeah, okay.
Fine. Yes, I'm with you. Bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's noticeable once you know that he was Australian, but you might not guess that from watching the movie.
No, but there was one funny thing that you and I talked about in terms of Australian accents, which was when I was in college, graduate school. A friend of mine was dating this woman, and I asked when she'd moved here. And we were living in Los Angeles at the time. And my friend said, well, she moved here a few years ago. I said, no. When did she come to the country? What? And I said, no, her accent. I mean, she's Australian, right? And my friend looked at me and said, Gila, she's from Boston. And I felt really stupid.
Also, it says here, early consideration was given to real-life newscasters Walter Cronkite and John Chancellor, but neither was open to the idea.
Why not Sander Van Oker?
That was a missed opportunity.
Although, could you imagine?
Sander Van Oker as Howard Beale.
I'm as mad as hell. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
I must make my witness, but you don't have to do this.
There were 51 homicides. You don't have to do this. You don't.
Without warning.
Without warning. Not Howard Beale.
Not mad as hell.
Can't lose your shit. World is ending.
It also says here, George C. Scott, Glenn Ford, and William Holden turned down Beale before Holden played Schumacher.
I can't even imagine. And we've talked about this before, is just you can't imagine another actor in that role. Just
No, you can't. It's iconic. For Schumacher, Chayefsky had also listed Walter Matthau and Gene Hackman as possibilities.
No. I'm sorry. Max Schumacher is not curmudgeonly.
No.
In the way that either of those two men are curmudgeonly.
Yeah. No, Schumacher is grizzled. He's tired of the bullshit that he's got to put up with, but he's afraid of what he's going to do when he doesn't have a place in it anymore.
Yeah, in this changing world that he's been a cog in and isn't any longer.
And I love Walter Matthau so much. I love Gene Hackman's work so much. I'm a fan of both of them. Neither of them could have done Schumacher like Holden did. Oh.
What?
It also says here, for the role of Diana Christensen, Chayefsky thought of Candice Bergen, Ellen Burstyn, and Natalie Wood. You just made a face. While the studio suggested Jane Fonda, with Kay Lenz, Diane Keaton, Marsha Mason, and Jill Clayburgh.
Sorry, I'm trying to envision Natalie Wood as Diana Christensen. It's not working well.
Nope. Lumet wanted to cast Vanessa Redgrave in the film, but Chayefsky didn't want her. Lumet argued that he thought she was the greatest English-speaking actress in the world, while Chayefsky, a proud Jew and supporter of Israel, objected on the basis of her support of the PLO. Lumet, also a Jew, said, "Patty, that's blacklisting." To which Chayefsky replied, "Not when a Jew does it to a Gentile."
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. But
Fun,
yeah.
So, Network, all in all,
A classic of American cinema, and I am very grateful to you for having shown it to me.
so do we have 2 Fireflies up?
I think we have 2 Fireflies up.
Excellent.
Enthusiastically.
Two enthusiastic Fireflies up. And yeah, we can't recommend it enough. And hopefully if you've listened to this whole episode, you've already seen the movie. But even if you haven't, even if we've just spoiled every twist and turn and beat in this movie, watch it anyway.
It's seriously
a piece of
so
art.
worth it. It's so good.
And once you've done so, tell us what you think of the movie Network. Send us email at watches@modern.technology. Let us know what you think about this movie, about other movies that we've spoken about your suggestions for things that maybe we should watch sometime.
Find us on Twitter at MTPodcastNet. Take a little video of yourself saying, "I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore," and send it to us on Twitter. Or share it with us on Twitter. More to the point, tag us in the video of you saying, "I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." Maybe we'll edit them all together into like a collage-y thing.
I like that. Yes, do get in touch with us, because we still don't have enough mail to fit a mailbag.
We can't even fit a mail pocket.
Yeah, we haven't any mail that we haven't already addressed. And
let us hear from you.
Let us hear from you. We know you're out there. We know you're listening. We would love to hear from you.
We certainly would.
A very happy 2020. This has been Rob Vincent.
And Gila Drazen.
And we will catch you next time.
We'll see you at the movies.
You're going to get assassinated by an audience member for saying that. The Ebert Liberation Army is coming after you.
Let him take me.
You've been listening to episode 112 of Modern Technology Watches with Gila Drazen and Rob Vincent. Go to modern.technology on the web for more info on this show, our other work, and our social media ratings. Our music is The Promise by Torley Wong, released Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3.0. Find more from Torley at torley.com. Thank you, Torley. Content from wikipedia.org is used under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3.0. This podcast is released under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0, produced by modern.technology. Send us email at watches@modern.technology, and hey, if you like us, tell a friend or 2 or 10.
As they were considering Jimmy Stewart for the role of Howard Beale, and as they were also considering at one point Walter Matthau for the role of Max Schumacher, I thought we should have a bit of dialogue to show what it would have been like had those actors been cast. Now I'm gonna blow my brains out right on the air, right in the middle of the 7 o'clock news. Well, you get a hell of a rating, I'll tell you that. A 50 share at least. We could make a series of it. Suicide of the week. Ah, hell, why limit ourselves? Execution of the week. Oh, terrorist of the week. I love it. Suicides, assassinations, mad bombers, mafia hitmen, automobile smash-ups, the death hour, a great Sunday night show for the whole family. It wiped that fucking Disney right off the air. What do you think?